Oh, would you look at that? There's a new episode of the Bladtcast on my phone, ready to play right now. Listening to Bladtcast. I don't want to watch what's on the TV. iTunes that put on the BC. Podcast on, no talking to me. Listening to Bladtcast. Keep up on comics and movies. New phone ring, I answer who these. I can't talk, call back if you please. Listening to Bladtcast. You don't know what you are missing. Damn fine show hosted by Christian. He's just dope, no ass I'm kissing. Listening to Bladtcast. Click subscribe on this podcast. You won't be the first, but don't you be last. Listen while you pumping your gas. Listening to Bladtcast. On this episode is Jean Grey talking about the things that she say. So distracted, didn't feed Bay. Listening to Bladtcast. Met this girl, she smiled in my face. Bladtcast enchilada my place. Had one beer, she brought a whole case. Listening to Bladtcast. Cops knock on the door and listen. Bladtcast on, they think I'm Christian. Cops ran off, now I ain't tripping. Listening to Bladtcast. My point is, listen to this show. Don't need me to tell you it's dope. Rock so hard like Johnny Lithgow. Listening to Bladtcast. Oh yeah, that's the Bladtcast. It's on the Ghost Twin TV or whatever. Oh, it's not. Oh, it's on AfterBuzz TV. That's right. That's that guy Christian. You rock. All right, several Texans had to go take care of some business, but I'm here to say, have a nice day. And listen to the damn show.
This is the Bladtcast, a sometimes fast-paced but usually meandering look at the world, hosted by Christian Bladt. Today, Christian is joined by original Bladtcaster Will Starling, so please dim your lights, silence your phones, return tray tables to their upright and locked positions, and get ready for what is quite possibly the longest hour, or shortest 2 hours and 56 minutes of your life. And now, your host, because he won't let anyone else do it, Christian Bladt.
Oh, hey. Hello there. That does sound like me. And I want to shout out the great Shareable Texas with an amazing theme song that I don't play nearly enough. But if you know what we're talking about today, I think you'll understand why I dusted it off. And of course, the great Farhad Muhammad with the voiceover there. Very excited to welcome back to the show the great Will Starling. He'll be coming right up, as they say. And also a very early morning Bladtcast for those of us here on the West Coast. Welcome to looks like we have 0 people watching live, so that sounds great, but why would I be on this early? Busy day, but excited to be back. I know it's been a minute. I've been looking to do a new episode for a little while, and there's always a reason to push it back, but I figured if I was going to come back, I was going to come back big. And the only way to do that is to be joined by the one, the only, the great Agent Starling himself, the great Will Starling, who I might be wrong, but it looks like you're coming to us from the back rooms.
I'm actually dog sitting for like a week, and so I'm at somebody else's house right now. So this is like, but it does look very back.
It's the color, yeah. So our audio audience is like,
yeah.
But is it a different part of the city that you're dog sitting?
Upper West Side right now. Ooh. My home is in Harlem, but I'm on the Upper West Side, UWS.
Well, your heart will always be in Harlem, but right now your body is UWS. Fun fact: now residing on the UWS, Dennis Miller Show legend Salmon.
Really?
He forsake. He forsake the West Coast. That'll probably happen a lot because it is early in the morning. But look, I'm going to drink all this water and then I'll talk again.
I was going to say 6:30 for you. You're doing this early. I also imagine for my benefit to a certain degree.
Well, you had some scheduled stuff, but also it was like, you know what? I'm going to do it before I have to take Lucy to camp. Felix he spent the night at the LA Zoo last night, and this was an organized thing through the Zoo Academy he's doing there for the summer. Not just, we left him there and figured we'd go back and get him today. You know, it was like, we figure the otters can look after him, right? Yeah. I've seen Emmett Otter's Jug Band Christmas. They are very loving and caring. Will, how are you? I haven't talked to you in a while.
I'm good.
I haven't done the show in a while.
Hearing your intro, yeah, I'm like, wait, I thought this was a weekly thing. Sounds like you take periodic. Listen, you have children and you have a real life, so I know that like things happen. But I 687 by my standards, I'm like, he's just been doing it every week since we started.
It seems to be every couple of years the summer slowdown happens because I'm like, oh yeah, I'll still be able to do it. And the last one that I did was for Supergirl, and that was 6 weeks ago.
Yeah.
And I was like really trying to get one in. I wanted to talk to you. I wanted to do it before I went to Tahoe with the kids, which was in the middle of July. And now it's the middle of August. So obviously that didn't happen. The thing is, and people see some of this stuff go onto the channel. I podcast a lot every week. It's just, this is the one that sometimes is, unfortunately, my baby has become the redheaded stepchild on occasion. And to the extent that like next week's episode is just going to be a rehash of, I don't know, probably like 3.5 hours of Spider-Man talk that I'll be doing for Geekscape. But, listen, I do it all for the love of the game. So people know that they can see me. But if you're only subscribed to the Bladtcast feed, you might be like, whatever happened to that guy? And somebody called me out in the chat for the show that I do. Who are these broadcasters? Literally this past week, they said something about it. I forget exactly what they said. And I was like, hey, yeah, they're right. But I wanted to talk to you. I want to know how your summer's going, then we'll talk movies.
Summer's going well. I'm busy. Similar and different. I do my filmmaking career keeps me very busy, but it only costs me money at this point still. So it's a for the love of the game situation. But I've got, I put together like a small East Coast-ish roadshow for a cell phone movie, which I'm kind of taking around and doing some like what I call motivational stand-up with it, trying to encourage people to just like, I made a crappy little micro budget movie on my phone. Like, you can do this, you can do better. And then that friend, which you've seen.
Yes, I have seen.
You've seen both, actually. Premiered at Tribeca in June. And we have some other festivals coming up this year. And then I've got a third feature that I'm currently in post-production on, which is still a little bit top secret. But there's an Instagram account for it called One Woman Film. And if people just want to go there, there's cryptic things being posted. Maybe there'll be some information at some point.
You talked about it, being a secret. And I was like, wait a minute. Is there like a Star Wars episode 3.5, between Revenge of the Sith and A New Hope? That would be pretty secret. Maybe a Marvel movie that centers around the beloved character Speedball. So there's so many mysteries that could be out there. In the early morning chat, whichever coast you're on, is Ladastro. And this channel is going bonkers this week. There's been a lot going on here, but this is the first Bladtcast in a while. Thank you, Ladastro, for being here. If I had any kind of gifts to offer, I would. I don't even have a merch store. I have a merch. As you know, Will, I have merch. I just don't sell it because
the shirts and the mugs. That's all.
That's all. And by the way, both because of the great Matt and Casey, and. I wouldn't have this bell if not for him either. So
founder of the feast,
yes, exactly. So summer has blown by because the kids back here, they go back to school super early, much earlier than I ever did as a kid. They'll be going back to school next Thursday.
Highly inappropriate.
The 13th.
No, when I was a child, and you and everybody, like latest August 20-something, early September. Yeah. That was the thing. And they keep shifting this timeline, and I don't understand why.
I don't understand why. It's like the hottest part of the year, so let's run more air conditioning. As a kid, and honestly, even where I went to college, we always started the Wednesday after Labor Day. And it felt like summer was over. And it's time to go back to school. It's August 13th, and get this. On Saturday, we're going to be taking the kids to a K-pop festival at the Rose Bowl.
Whoa.
And that is a venue that I swore I'd never go to again. And I never expected that I would go to a K-pop festival. They really only want to see one band. And that or should I call them a group? Because bands imply instrumentation. But they're called Cat's Eye. And oh my gosh, the way my kids are excited about this, like they had to watch the Kids' Choice Awards last year because Cat's Eye were performing, but also because Jack Black was on because they had seen the Minecraft movie, you know.
Right.
So I was just like, all right. I mean, all of a sudden we were like getting hit hard by like tweendom, like all at once, you know. I was like, okay, we're here watching the Kids' Choice Awards, which I was kind of like always too old for, you know. It was never really my event. I was an MTV Awards guy, but I don't know. Does this sound like the kind of thing you only do for the love of children? Is go to a K-pop festival
Maybe
in
I mean,
Pasadena in 93-degree heat?
lots of adults love K-pop, and
Sure.
K-pop Demon Hunters, great picture, great music. You know, I'm sure, or I would think your kids would be into it if
you know what?
I
I think if Lucy didn't have an older brother, she would have loved it because her friends do. But Felix's friends decided they didn't like it and that the songs are all really cringe. But here's the thing: they know all the songs. They have watched it more than once, and they watched it dubbed in Mandarin once because that felt like homework. So they felt like they'd get away with it. I'm like, I'm pretty sure they like it, but I'm sorry, go ahead.
It's that thing that little Felix is at that age where boys will say, kids in general maybe, but I feel like specifically young boys are like, this is lame, you know, or like when I was first day of middle school, I had Pokemon folders. It's crazy that Pokemon is still popular. My niece is like, can I have your old Pokemon stuff? I'm like, why?
And no, I treasure it. It's a dear friend. You cannot have it.
I told her, I was like, I sold the expensive cards, which I did. But I gave her like my old binder with my childhood handwriting that says Pokemon cards. And she's like, big fan of this. And we're 20 years apart. But I was first day of middle school, had Pokemon folders. And I remember everybody being like, Pokemon is lame. And of the generation, they used a derogatory slur.
Sure.
And, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Which, you know, we're not going to judge kids in that time and place. But,
no, can't do. But that was the verbiage back then.
Yeah.
And I remember being like, I can't let anyone see my Pokemon folders. I can't let anyone know that I like Pokemon. So I had to pretend that I didn't like stuff that I really liked. And I think that sounds like that's what they're doing. You know, that's just a phase for boys that 10, 15 years from now, he's going to be like, Dad, those K-pop Demon Hunter songs fucking slapped. I'm not gonna lie.
He's like, Golden's a banger. You know, it'll come on at the prom, and they'll all run to the floor. I think you're right. And I mean, listen, I was a kid who actively read comic books in the mid '80s, so there's a lot of keeping your interests, kind of close to the vest. I mean, I still I was probably 12 and I still love playing with my Transformers, but I wasn't going to tell anybody, you know. I had the set from like after the movie, when they had the season of the TV series that was set then. So anyway, so just doing that. And I wanted to show what this is Cat's Eye. So Felix just turned 11. So but they apparently like the music. And this is I mean, the style is K-pop. You'll see, obviously, a couple of these ladies are not of the K variety, but I think you just need a quorum.
It's funny because visually it's weird to see things repeating themselves.
Yeah.
And I was just kind of like going back down the rabbit hole of like mid to late 90s NSYNC, Britney, Christina Aguilera. And looking at this photo, I'm like, oh, it's back in style. Like everything recycles. And this like now the early 2000s, this is like what all the cast of the first Fast and the Furious movie dressed like.
Yes, they're surrounded by the cars. As the great Milhouse once said, Milhouse Van Houten, obviously, once said, Alf is back in Pog form, and everything will come back in Pog form.
Yeah.
And I do want to move on to the main events, and I would, of course, collect Pogs for the Odyssey. Were they to become available? I don't know that they've given that licensing away. But Will, I know that you, of course, in New York City, there is the option of a 70 millimeter projection of
Mhm.
Christopher Nolan's The Odyssey. By the way, shouldn't it be Christopher Nolan's Homer's The Odyssey the way that we had Kenneth Branagh's Mary Shelley's Frankenstein?
Yeah, it's true. It's true. He didn't write the story.
Yeah. Although that translator will sure say that he took some liberties if you've seen that.
Yeah.
So talk about the adventures of seeing it. My friend Kaylee, aka Lucy, saw it up in Rochester. She had to go to like a Tuesday at 8 a.m. to be able to see it.
But saw the proper like 70 millimeter.
She went and saw the 70 millimeter. Yeah.
The Lincoln Center one, or Lincoln Town Square, or whatever that AMC is, that has the proper IMAX. Pretty much all of the screenings have indefinitely been sold out. So there was not really any hope for me to see it on that screen unless I wanted to sit in like a front row, far left corner seat, which
is the best way to enjoy 70 millimeter.
This doesn't seem like the way to receive the, you know what I mean? Like, I want to be able to see the whole picture, not from one corner of the room. So at first I was like, I want to see it the way that he intended, all that bullshit. And then I was like, I'm never going to be able to see it if that's the case, because there's only 41 of these screens on Earth, and the one near me, all the tickets were like being resold too on eBay for like hundreds of dollars. I'm like, I'm not.
Yeah, I've heard about that. Yeah. And by the way, they went on sale a year before the movie came
exactly.
out.
So it's like it's been sold out, and then they added showings, and those went out. Like I don't play that game. I got other things to do with my life. So I saw it in the Dolby Theater, which people said you can never get the proper IMAX ratio unless you're in the true 70, because even the digital IMAX crops quite a bit off. So you should go to the Dolby Theater, because then at least you're preserving the sound, and you get still a nice widescreen image, which to me, as a filmmaker and as a film lover, I prefer a wide image than I do a tall image. Like, I'm really stoked and proud of Chris, who I don't know personally, but I'm going to pretend like I do, for accomplishing this thing that he's clearly been trying to accomplish for decades, which is shooting an entire movie on IMAX. But I think that I don't like a picture that's so tall. I really like a really wide CinemaScope type of image. And also, I think 70 millimeters too. The negative's so big that there's no grain, so the image is too clean, and it's not for me. But I like that he did it. So seeing it widescreen, totally fine for me. It was very loud, and the real question was like, is this the IMAX that's blowing everyone away, or is the writing that incredible? Having seen it that way, I was like, I'm fine having not seen this in IMAX.
Yeah, so there is really one true IMAX in Southern California, and you know this from having lived here. It's the one up at Universal. And
Irvine, right? Spectrum?
That's fair. Yeah. I guess in LA proper, that's the one. And I saw the last Mission Impossible on that, I think. But in general, this was sort of a similar situation. Those show times were all sold out. And listen, I'm really cheap. You have to pay to park up at Universal, and they like give you some of a rebate in the form of popcorn. But I was like, I don't want that. So also, I was like, I can see it. This was right before. This was like between. Oh, this is right when we got back from Tahoe before I went down to San Diego Comic-Con, and I was like, I can go Monday at like 10 a.m. So I did, and I did get an IMAX showing, and I was looking at it, and I thought about this while I was there. I'm like, I feel like this image is plenty big. I don't feel like I'm missing anything. If we're seeing an arm, maybe I would get like a little bit further down the arm. I was just like, I feel like it's okay. Yeah. Because me, I mean, when I saw Oppenheimer, everybody's like, you have to see it in 70 millimeter. I'm like, no, there's like 90 seconds you needed to see an Oppenheimer. Most of it's in a courtroom. Yeah. So no, you did not need to see that movie in beautiful 70 millimeter, and you didn't even need to see it in IMAX. This one, I was like, oh, you should see it. What's the biggest screen you can see it on? Go see it there. Don't get yourself all crazy about show times and things like that. So I saw an IMAX showing, and I know a lot of people who still haven't seen it. By the way, at 2 hours and 52 minutes, you may know, this movie is shorter than Matt Reeves' The Batman, which you and I saw.
That's,
It's like 6 years
that's
ago
crazy.
now.
You know, I
Yeah.
think about the Batman so frequently where I'm like, God, that movie is so beautiful. But every time I think about it, I just think about Christopher Nolan Batman movies. Like it's too,
Yeah.
again, my biggest thing was that it came too soon after that had
Yes.
happened. And also, I remember I rewatched it maybe 2 years ago and I hadn't seen it since I saw it in the theater with you.
Yeah.
And like, I'm getting into the movie and I was like, I'm really enjoying this. This is great. And it starts to feel like it feels like it's really wrapping itself up. And I checked the timing. And I was like, oh, there's one more hour
Yeah.
left to go.
What I always say that the problem with that movie is that it sneaks up on you and there's a fourth act, which as a filmmaker, you know, there's a 3-act structure.
Yeah.
That movie does have a fourth act.
It does.
And later on, when we talk about Spider-Man Brand New Day, people are sort of saying that has kind of a tacked on element to it. I guess you're correct. It just didn't feel like, oh man, this is like starting something completely new,
Right.
like Matt Reeves' The Batman. So we're going to talk about the Odyssey in a second, but we need to go back to something really important, and that's Alf Pogs. Ladastra says you and Scott White from CBS Fantasy Baseball Channel have both mentioned that Milhouse quote this week. Pogs on the uprise in the algorithm.
Whoa, Pogs
yes,
making a comeback.
Yeah, Pogs are making a comeback, and Alf is making a comeback. Alf is here in Pogs form. And Ladastra, thank you for being the one there in the chat. We appreciate that. There's someone else watching too. It's not me. Somebody's lurking. You can go ahead and say hi.
I do see it says studio chat 2 people, but I don't get to see any of the conversation.
Yeah, I know. I'd like that. If I could do a little drop down, you know, honestly, they're probably one of them's probably me somehow. So what did you think of the film itself? So we've talked about the projection and all of that, but then you still have to make a good movie. You know, you got to put something on the screen and you want it to be good, don't you?
Of course. And the thing that's tricky for me is I think 2 things can be true at the same time. One, I can believe that Christopher Nolan made like a technical masterpiece of a movie that's beautiful, that's full of great performances, that's got incredibly unique score, and sound design is like insane, and everything about it is beautiful and wonderful and exciting and all this kind of stuff. But at the same time, also feel like as movies go, the script needed work. You know, like I think that it's full of all the things that Nolan does that he doesn't get challenged for. I'm always like nervous talking. I'm like, what if I get a career and Nolan's going to see this interview someday and be like, you talk shit about the Odyssey.
Yeah, but I think if you talk about it sensibly from the heart, he could be like, well, I disagree, but you know, it wasn't just like,
no, it's not that, because I do think, like, and I said, like, proud of this guy, and also for getting butts and seats in movie theaters. You know, like he has, I think what he doesn't either understand or does understand and doesn't care or doesn't embrace is that like he's the celebrity. So one of the things that was a big challenge for me with the movie, even at the outset, was the casting. I do not think about almost any of those actors when I think about the Odyssey, ever.
Yeah.
When you're like, hey, it's Matt Damon, he's Odysseus. I'm like, that's incongruous. It feels like such an ancient story that's full of so many modern faces, super famous modern faces. Fucking Spider-Man is his, you know what I mean? And then the Spider-Man movie comes out 2 weeks later, and I was like,
but I've pointed this out a few times that the summer the summer box office has been dominated by films featuring Tom Holland, Zendaya, and John Bernthal, and I have enjoyed 2 movies with Tom Holland, Zendaya, and John Bernthal, and you can't convince me that one isn't a sequel to the other. But anyway, yes, I know. I mean, yes, Spider-Man is in this movie, and so is Will Hunting / Jason Bourne, and Batman is in this movie, and a different Catwoman is in this movie. So it's very recognizable faces. It is, of course, some of Nolan's roster, some of his regulars. You know,
of course,
you know. So Elliot Page he'd worked with before. You know, so he has his people that he's like, oh yeah, I know what I'm going to get from these actors.
I think so. I mean, he loves working with celebrities. You know what I mean, like that, and he does well. Like the thing is, like he's a great, incredible director, and this is, for all intents and purposes, I keep saying a technical masterpiece. I have just always felt that Nolan is an incredible storyteller, but not a great screenwriter. There's not a lot of nuance to his writing. There's not a lot of character development of just 2 characters one-on-one having like thematic conversations. You get that in the last 15 minutes of Odysseus being like, I guess when we invaded Troy, like that was kind of fucked up because all those women and children were killed.
Yeah.
But that only comes at the very end. It's like, it's such a spectacle machine that the thing that I think in his movies, sort of after he stopped working with his brother, has been very, very story forward, but the nuance of screenwriting light, and his female characters are always either villains or aggressively in service to the male characters. He chose a story from history that historically the lady just waits for the man to come home, like it's or they're tempting them on an island or whatever it is. Like there are patterns to his storytelling that I just wish that he would start to challenge himself. I don't know that other people feel the need to challenge him because he makes so much money and he's so successful. But I just think that the Odyssey is both this great technical feat and full of talent. Everybody does a good job in their performances, but I think that it's like indicative of an incredibly modern mindset when it comes to how to make an IMAX Odyssey movie. That I think that the spirit and any amount of character development that's done in a subtextual way, or I guess I should say interesting way, is lost for the scope and the scale. Like there's so many things. Let's divert to this island for no apparent reason, so these massive armored men can just kill a bunch of people and then we leave. Like, could have excised that from the edit. There's just, I understand that that's where the crew gets obliterated, whatever. But there are ways, I don't know, to try to beef up some of the character interactions to give them more than a man goes on a journey and then comes home and his son goes on another journey to learn about the journey that his father is on. That it's just so much exposition. It's so much story. I think at the sake of the characters, unfortunately.
What I can't wait until he tells his son about the journey he went on to find out about his father's journey and how he got to meet with the Punisher. So, listen, there's a lot of stuff in there. Obviously,
John Bernthal in the movie too. I'm just like, I'm like, I really like. Weirdly, Brand New Day is the most acting I've seen John Bernthal do outside of even his other version of the Punisher in like 10 years.
Right, exactly. Yeah, and we will certainly touch on that. In terms of performances, I think it's interesting because this movie is so dense because the text of the Odyssey in and of itself is so dense. There's so much that happens throughout the course of it. And one of the first things that I heard back from people was a friend of mine through Geekscape. I hadn't seen it yet, but he was going on about Samantha Morton as Cersei, who that is the island where it's like, oh, sure, come here, I'll feed you. Yeah. And then the movie's been out for a while. It's a weird thing to be worried about spoiling a 3,000-year-old story. And then she turns them into pigs. And so I was not entirely sure what was going to happen, but I'm like, oh, there's probably gonna be something better. And I'm like, yeah, that is actually a great performance. That's not the movie star performance, but they got some great character work. Charlize Theron, Calypso was written that way, so that's how much Charlize Theron we were going to get, And I'm going to give her, I'm going to give a lot of these performances. I'm going to give them a Will Sterling. Fine. Well, yeah. I don't look at anybody and go, oh, yikes, but it's all like, oh yeah, everybody's fine. But somebody like Samantha Morton gets the opportunity to shine in this huge movie. And yeah, you've seen her and stuff, but you haven't really seen her, have like a role like this that she gets to really inhabit and shape these men's faces into pig snouts.
I think if you have a cast full of people like that, like imagine how much more immersive the feeling, like Odysseus' right-hand guy who's kind of challenging him along the way. I don't even remember that actor's name. I know he's been in another Nolan movie or two. Yeah. Was the character that I felt myself attaching to the most because he was of that level, right? It's like, I've seen this guy in things, but he's not so famous as to be distracting, that he felt like a real person in that world and in that universe. It was hard for me to unsee. Every time Zendaya popped up, I'm like, she looks like she's just plucked from her downtime off of Dune 3 and dropped in this movie.
I would go so far as like, isn't that what she wears in the Dune movies? Isn't she dressed?
It looks the same.
It's like, just keep the wardrobe on. Himesh Patel is the actor.
Okay,
and he's great. And I did have to look it up. It's the same thing. I've seen him in things. Yes, he's great. But yeah, it's not like an Idris Elba. If Idris Elba played that role, he would have been great. But I also would have kept thinking about Luther. Are we going to get another movie? And why wasn't he James Bond? So yeah, sometimes there's roles that the movie stars don't need to be in. But you get like a performance from John Leguizamo, which I have to say is unlike anything you've ever seen. This is the guy who made The Pest, so
movie as a child. Yeah.
I have a friend who convinced me that I needed to watch it. And I think I was too old when I saw it because I was like, oh man, it felt like this show that used to be on called Steam Pipe Alley with Mario Cantone. And I was like, it's not a compliment if I'm comparing it to it, but so you get those performances, and yes, we're getting good performances from the movie star actors. Tom Holland felt kind of a lot like Spider-Man, you know what I mean? So he didn't feel different. I guess I haven't seen him in enough things that aren't Spider-Man, where I've never seen him be really, different, for lack of a better word.
Right.
But and listen, I enjoy the story. I think that the usage of drums, specifically in the last like 30 minutes of the movie, just that's really the music that they have. That's the score, is just these really loud drums to build up the tension. And I'm like, usually you just get that in movie trailers, but I was like, I found it to be very effective for a movie that's 2 hours and 52 minutes that is 3,000 years old, that is projected on a giant screen. It's not like there was a time where I was like, how many more of these 2 hours and 52 minutes do I have? I'm here for what, 172 minutes, and what minute am I at? So it is beautiful. The sound design is of course great, and the performances are great. But am I passionate about the Odyssey? Am I telling everybody they need to see it? What I said afterwards, I'm like, it's kind of like exactly what I thought it would be in all the best ways. You know what I mean? He checked all the boxes. It is what you said, but it wasn't like, there's reports of people the first time they saw Star Wars in 1977, they walked out of the theater and they got back in line to like wait to go see it again.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think anybody did that. Probably because all the shows are sold out, But this is the big spectacle that, if you remember, during the pandemic, I guess his studio at that time was Warner Brothers, and they were convinced that Christopher Nolan was going to save cinema. Unfortunately, it was with Tenet. Yeah. And I will never apologize for how much I hate that movie. My poor wife decided to take a nap during it, and she wasn't even tired. She was just like, it's just too much, Yeah. But if in some alternate reality, the film that he was sitting on had been the Odyssey, it could have saved cinema. And this many, 6 years later, not 6 full years after they released Tenet, but 6 years later, it did seem to really invigorate what had already been a sluggish box office. And July at the box office was huge. This movie, Spider-Man Brand New Day, there was something about how I think the percentage of screens that were booked to show Spider-Man before it released was 59% of screens just nationwide. Mm-hmm. And the Odyssey, before it released, I think it was 22%. And, you have a lot of the overlap of, the two movies still being new. So I don't think that accounts for, 75% of screens, but a lot of screens had Tom Holland, Zendaya, and John Bernthal on them, and people were going. The second time I saw Spider-Man, it was a Sunday night at 10 o'clock at the beautiful Burbank AMC 16, it. And every seat was sold out. And there were people, long. The line for snacks was too long. I couldn't even get in line for snacks.
Wow.
And you know how much that hurts me.
Yeah.
But it was good. I got to focus on the movie. There were people outside afterwards. It was like, like 1 a.m. People talking about the movie, so it is really this summer is the first time that like going to the movies felt like it did, even 10 years ago. I'm not talking about like when we were kids. That was like you had to line up because you couldn't reserve your seat. I try to explain it to my kids someday, the what it was like. We were savages. We couldn't even reserve a seat to see a film. So I think it's, done a great service for film, as in the business side. It is a great work of art, but are people passionate about the movie? I don't know. Maybe you talk to different people.
I think people are more passionate about the experience, there's something to be said for that.
Yeah, sure.
And I think that's, I'm asking myself as a writer or a filmmaker, do I feel that there's a responsibility to try to do something with the script differently? I would say yes, but I don't think he feels that same. He's very visually and production design and sound, he's focused on the technical aspect of stuff in a way that I think he casts wisely, knowing that the actors that he gets for his things will fill in the gaps. Like he doesn't, I don't know that I would call him an actor's director, right? Because we don't usually deal with nuanced performances coming from Nolan films. Everything is big and everything is like in your face. And the first 30 to 45 minutes of the Odyssey is just like John Leguizamo telling Tom Holland like what happened, so that way the audience knows what. Like, most Nolan movies are about the characters telling you what the movie is about. Inception, Interstellar, Tenet, like he has these very heady, high concept movies, and somehow the Odyssey gets wrapped into that, where there's so much going on in such a 3,000-year-old epic that it's like, well, I'll just tell everybody what's happening so that way they're not confused. And to me, the sort of like show don't tell aspect of screenwriting is very precious, and that's just not how Nolan writes, and that's fine. I don't know that like that's not me saying that the movie is bad or that I disliked it. I'm just realizing as I get older that I'm like, people do this in ways that I guess I would do differently, but I'm not fucking Nolan. I'm so like it doesn't really matter. But I don't know that it's blanket deserves 5 stars hands down and no one's allowed to criticize it. I think that this woman that translation that people are like raking her over the coals for, I'm like, I don't know. I think it's okay if she's allowed to say like, I spent ages translating this text. If the movie didn't work for her, like that's fine. It is not the greatest film that's ever been made. Although I think some people probably feel that way. So the internet, as has made everything so divisive that I think people are hard pressed to want to give any kind of almost constructive criticism when it comes to it too, because then you're sort of the outlier, and it's to question this vision. And it's like, it's not that. It's just that it could function better in different ways, I think.
Right. And we all know that the greatest film ever made is the first Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles from 1990. I mean, why would we even debate such a thing?
Honestly, legitimate case to be made for that.
Yeah. Like I'm going to listen to the conversation. Like let's talk about it. And listen, I think that negative reaction to any film that somebody actually sees, if they see any movie and they're like, it just wasn't for me. It's like, that's fine. You saw it, you understand, it's just sort of the pre-release, like, oh my gosh, this is going to be terrible. I was like, I mean, odds are, like, as much as I hated Tenet and felt like Oppenheimer focused on the wrong things, there was never a second where I'm like, this Odyssey is going to be is going to be something else. But you're right. He does do a lot of that. Tell me, don't show me. It's almost like the Family Guy bit where at one point, Tom Holland should have looked at him and like, wow, it's almost like he was on some kind of The Odyssey, But again, in a way too, that it's just like, well, that's kind of a convention of filmmaking, but also of storytelling. It's like, where are we in the story?
There's a point in Tenet, which is like an aggravating movie for a lot of people, I think, where Aaron Taylor Johnson's character says like, don't try to understand it, just like go with the plan, which is like a line that Nolan gets to write to be like, I'm doing this for me. And if it doesn't make sense to you, fuck you. You know what I mean? Like, this movie Tenet is for me, and great, you should make all the stories you want to make for you. But if people are frustrated, like, they have a right to be like, what the fuck is happening? And even though you spend the whole movie trying to tell people that like shit goes backwards and frontwards at the same time, it's like that still doesn't make a lot of sense to people. And then like Kenneth Branagh has a yacht, and
Well, that makes sense. Actually,
Yeah, that's true. That does make sense.
He made Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, as
That's
we
right. He gets to
established.
have it.
That's his Frankenstein yacht.
Yeah.
So yeah, listen, I do think that people should see it while it's in theaters. This isn't just check it out on streaming. I will be interested in talking to people who the first time they see it is on, I don't know what platform it'll be. It's Universal, right? So it is Universal, right? So it'd be Peacock. That's just crazy. That
not for a long time though.
No, I know, but one day, like that's where it's going to turn up, and and listen, those windows are smaller than they used to be. It is actually about to come off of IMAX screens because Spider-Man: Brand New Day was shot with IMAX cameras. But in this country, we haven't seen it in IMAX because the Odyssey had the exclusivity, which is something coming up for Marvel in December for Avengers Doomsday, because Dune has all the IMAX screens. And that's why they've invented Infinity Vision. And they're going to just say, you just go see it on another screen in Infinity Vision. So Disney has come up with their own IMAX.
Are they just going to like letterbox the sides and give
No, I think that they are having theaters actually construct another, large screen because and that's based on the fact that there is one theater at the Burbank 16 that has not been open for a while. It has been under some kind of construction, or maybe they have secret Hollywood meetings in there that I obviously just don't get invited to.
Adrenochrome. Yeah, that's what
right. Yeah, exactly. That's it. You get to sprinkle the adrenochrome on your popcorn. But again, not me. So I think that it's kind of interesting. So it's like, I don't know if I like need to see Spider-Man: Brand New Day a third time, but I'm like, I kind of would like to see what they did with IMAX. The first time I saw it, you'll appreciate that I saw it in a format called 4DX.
I've never seen the movie on the 4DX. I've heard interesting things.
I did that a long time ago. It was the Terminator movie with Emilia Clarke. Okay. So that's how long ago it was. And it has come a long way since then. It was like all the worst parts of a roller coaster at Disneyland, because it's like, well, Spidey's jumping down the buildings, so now we're jumping down the buildings, and he's getting kicked, so we're kicking the back of your chair, and it moved, and it's like, oh, it's a light drizzle outside. Shh, here comes the rain. And I was like, no, sir, I don't like it. But I was able to enjoy the movie, but I was in a hurry to see it again without all of that. I was like, my takeaway from 4DX is like, man, if you're the 4DX team that comes up with how the chairs should move and what they should do to the movie, it's probably a lot of fun, like inventing a roller coaster.
Yeah.
So there's other movies I want to talk about, but let's keep it with let's focus it on ribs. I think, as a wise man once said. I do want to focus it on Tom Holland's ribs, which we actually see in this movie. So I guess that's appropriate. And I was wondering if you were going to see this movie because of the fact that you're mostly out on the MCU, but one of the things you said is you would see Spider-Man, and there was somebody else that I think you were
Spider-Man, Captain America, and at the time Black Panther.
Yes.
But now they're replacing Shuri as Black Panther with like his son or something. I'm like, yes, I thought he was the Black Panther.
She is the Black Panther now, but David Johnson, I think is that actor's name. He was in a movie called The Long Walk, which is a Stephen King story. He was great in that movie. So and everybody you talk to has seen him. Well, not everybody, but I've talked to a lot of people we've all seen him in something different. And the one thing everybody says is like, oh yeah, he's great. Yeah. So I think that he's T'Challa's son. So when is this story set? I don't know, because T'Challa's son was like 4 at the end.
That will be Black Panther 3.
That'll be Black Panther 3.
It's weird to me that the studio is like, we're gonna not do the female Black Panther thing anymore. Like, we spent a lot of time trying to make it work because Chadwick Boseman died, and then now we're just gonna give it back to T'Challa's son.
Yeah,
I guess I was surprised by that. I thought that she was like locked in as that part, but I guess not. So.
Listen, I think that they're very focused on what focus groups tell them, what feedback they get, and I I personally, I did not love that Black Panther movie, which the drop off for me from the first one to the second one, I was like, oh, I mean, that was like Shazam to Shazam 2. No, Black Panther 2 is way better than Shazam 2. But in terms of like movie I liked, movie I didn't really like.
It was a fucking mess. And unfortunately, I think a lot of that was because they tried to retrofit versions of the script that was written before Chadwick Boseman died. And then this one after. And it was just like, I don't fault them. Like, I don't know. That's a tough battle to try to figure out. So I don't know, maybe they did as best as they could, but I guess I was optimistic that like, okay, well now we can get the proper Shuri Black Panther movie because she doesn't have to be picking up the pieces.
Yeah.
Story, but apparently not.
Yeah. And I, after that movie ended, I stood by what I said all along. It's like, it's so tragic, so sad about Chadwick Boseman. He was so talented. They should have just recast T'Challa. I mean, that movie made me feel like, yes, that's exactly what they should have done. But anyway, so we'll get that. So Spider-Man movies are something that you see. And but I think that's it, right? Like, you didn't even see Supergirl, right?
I saw Superman, not Supergirl.
Yeah. Which I think I told you that I don't know if you're familiar with the story, Woman of Tomorrow.
I haven't read it actually.
Yeah. I thought it took a story that is well regarded and well liked and actually improved upon some elements to it. Okay. And I think she's great.
Only person I've heard to say that. Most people say it ruined that story.
Yes. But then I read the story because I read the story after I saw the movie, and I'm like, oh no, these things are less good.
Right.
Just one thing that I will say: the story in the comic books is set over like 8 months, and therefore there is no urgency, and they have a very quick fix for that. Anyway, I'm on a short list of people who enjoyed the movie. Conversationally, you talk to people, it's like, yeah, I thought it was fun, and I thought it was fun, and but. So, I would say check it out sometime on streaming. I'd be interested in your thoughts. It wasn't a rush out and see it in the theater. I don't even know that's in theaters anymore, but I'd be interested in your thoughts about it because obviously Clark is in that film. That is not a spoiler. He's in the trailer. So he's not in it that much. But anyway, so when it comes to Spider-Man, I was thinking about these things mostly afterwards. And of course, I'll ask you your thoughts on the movie in a moment. But I was thinking about the fact that Tom Holland has played Spider-Man for 10 years now, going back to Captain America Civil War. Yeah. And it's uncharted territory for that character. Fourth standalone movie Marvel has done. And yes, this is a Sony co-production, but Marvel is involved. They did that for Thor, but nobody's even had a fourth standalone movie, and he's
do you count Captain America 4, even though it's a different Captain America?
Well, that's not Steve, but yes, I guess you're right. That is a fourth. But see, the issue with that is, to me, that Civil War always felt like an Avengers movie. You know what I mean? Yeah. Civil War didn't feel like a Captain America movie.
Right.
1 and certainly 2, Winter Soldier, those felt like Captain America movies. This was like, Cap was at the middle of it, but boy, everybody else was sure in there, and it did stuff like introduce Spider-Man. But so yeah, I mean, technically Cap got 4, but that was Sam. So he has gotten to play this character and explore this character over a decade in a way that no one has, specifically Spider-Man. Andrew Garfield was in 2 movies. Tobey Maguire was in 2 movies, and then they made a third one that he was also in that is not very good. The one with, which Thomas Hayden Church as Sandman's fine, but then they got to bring Topher Grace in as Venom. So I think that he's really gotten to grow with the character. But also, this comes after he made the Odyssey, and he's talked about, he worked with Christopher Nolan, and he was like, so when I made this movie, I would come to the set in the morning and I would know what we were going to shoot. I would have already received the pages and I knew where the story was going. Could we try that for Spider-Man? Actually have it finished. Yeah. And I think that he used the clout, the celebrity aspect, the show business version of being a star, being a celebrity, to say like, could we take the time to make a good movie, because I don't know if you know what Sony originally wanted a fourth Spider-Man movie to be. Have you read any of that?
No.
They wanted it to feature Venom. He was going to end up with the black suit at some point, and it was going to connect all of the Sony spin-off movies to the MCU. There were going to be a number of symbiotes. They also saw the box office from No Way Home, the previous movie, and they wanted Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield to also be in it.
Yeah.
And why Null was going to be the main bad guy. And Tom Holland rightly said, and along with Marvel Studios, well, that movie sounds terrible. I don't want to make that movie.
Was there a script for it, or was it just like a pitch?
I think that was the pitch, but I'm going to bet there is a script, because the specifics, there's too many specifics, but maybe it was just a really detailed outline. And, I hope nobody took the time to write that piece of garbage. But
because they left the symbiote piece behind from Tom Hardy.
Yeah.
Right? And so I did think, I was like, oh, cool. So Venom will be in the Tom Holland Spider-Man movie at some point. I think he should. Venom is cool. I still wish we would get a proper like Spider-Man style Venom, not this. Tom Hardy had a good time. I'm happy that he had a good time. Those movies made plenty of money, but like, would be nice to get a good Spider-Man prop.
I think telling those stories would be great. Like, reminiscent to the alien costume, the symbiote that I read about as a kid. It was fascinating. So Tom Holland and also Marvel Studios, that they're the ones that really pull the strings on this series in particular. And that word I said there was strings. It might not have sounded like it, but they were like, how about like street level Spider-Man, smaller threat? And there's a compromise in the middle where Sony's like, we hear what you're saying. Can you give us a character from the TV show? Okay, we got that. Can you give us an Avenger? Okay, we got that. Actually, we got two of those. I don't know. Anybody from the X-Men? Oh, okay. So they did make those concessions, and it ran the risk of making it way too busy. And perhaps you can make the case that it did. But that's, I'm an apologist for Amazing Spider-Man 2, the second Andrew Garfield Spider-Man. At one point, the longest episode of this show was about Amazing Spider-Man 2, and that wasn't one of those cobbled together Frankenstein episodes. That was literally
in the studio.
One recording at the studio at AfterBuzz. That movie was
that
too
wasn't
busy.
AfterBuzz. That was Westwood One.
Oh, was it a Westwood One?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. But that was one. That was a great instance of, they were just trying to do too much, trying to set up the future movies, all of that. So I like the compromise that they reached. It certainly seems better than the Venom movie. But Will, I don't know anything about what you think about Spider-Man Brand New Day. So what are your thoughts on the movie itself?
As somebody who's struggling with the superhero cinema thing right now, just because there's so much of it, and this is the 37th Marvel movie
in a row.
Yeah. Whoa, I'm surprised more people aren't making that joke.
I know. I didn't realize it was 37. I would have. You're gonna hear me say that on the next Spider-Man show I do.
It proved a couple of things to me, which is like Tom Holland is the best Spider-Man. I do think like he's really like, I guess when I think about reading Spider-Man comics as a kid, I'm like, yeah, I guess this is it. This was the guy. I always have a soft spot for Tobey Maguire, and I think Andrew Garfield got done dirty. I still believe, I don't think they could shake it out, but I think that it would be so much fucking fun to have a Tobey and Andrew duo movie so they could tie up their individual, because they were going to do like Spider-Man 4 and they were going to do Amazing Spider-Man 3 and both of those things. I'm like, it'd be cool to just cross the universe. Why don't they do, I don't know how the rights shake out, but I'm like, they should do that. That would be such a great movie to make. So seeing him as Spider-Man is cool. I always forget how much fun it is to watch Spider-Man swing around and the way he fights. And it's such a dynamic character that makes the movie so entertaining. The suit and the color palette and everything about it. And it's another thing where it's like the cast is all locked in. I think I prefer now PG-13 Punisher to R-rated Punisher, because the violence of One Last Kill, which is funny that I watched it on Disney of all places, is like, so the characters become it's interesting to hear that they wanted to like address the fact that cops and like Trumpy people use the Punisher logo to do inherently non-Punisher things. Like he is kind of anti-establishment, anti all this other stuff. But then they kind of ended up just leaning back into that stuff anyway. Like One Last Kill is just so ridiculous, in my opinion. So violent.
And I will go so far as to say it's not very good.
It's really not.
Even though Angela from Who's the Boss is in it, that didn't save it. I actually that was kind of the most noteworthy thing about it. Yeah, I mean, it was almost like a parody of a Punisher story, and you know, in there is the deep rooted thing about the character that makes him so tragic, that makes you understand the way he reacted and just literally lost his mind. Watching your family gunned down in the park will not make for a good day. But that I thought was very bad. And by the way, it in no way tied into the Punisher that we see in this. And I think that Disney Plus presentation of One Last Kill was positioned as like, you're going to need to see this before he shows up in Spider-Man Brand New Day. As I go, no, you absolutely do not. In fact, I think you will enjoy him less if you if you do watch it after, if you really
Spider-Man's hanging out with a mass murderer. Yeah. We love I was talking about the Staten Island thing, which we never got details for, and I'm like, this version of it, I think it perfectly set up the Punisher and Archie crossover tonally. So
finally, yeah. By the way, how long I've been waiting for that?
Your whole life.
Yeah.
We have that to look forward to. But so it's like they have real chemistry as actors, which is fun to watch. And that I don't even think that version of the Punisher fits with the Daredevil show. Like that has popped up or whatever's happening with Daredevil. That being said, it's another Marvel movie, so I don't think it's a complete story, which is always very frustrating for me. These movies are designed to continue. Oh, there he is, Archie.
Yeah. Now you want to talk about?
I love that he's at the school dance with a fucking gun, and all the kids are looking like that. Is the scene of a school shooting? You know what I mean? Like that's horrible imagery. Yeah. But back then, they look at the Archie face as the skull over the Archie.
Hey, Jughead, leave room for the Holy Ghost. It's basically what he's there for.
I knew there'd be a chaperone, but this is ridiculous.
Sometimes Archie got to Archie, all right? And,
what a special moment in history.
I know, and that was 1993.
1995.
Yeah, it was it was amazing. But anyway, yes, there is, of course, there is sort of a... I don't even know what to call it. It's not an epidemic, but there's a thing about Marvel movies where sometimes, even the best ones, you might feel like, oh, there's really a lot of different ways we could have gone, but we chose not to. But anyway, back to your thoughts.
I felt like there was an era of more or less trying to tie up stories, even into Phase 3, like leading towards Endgame and all that stuff. I don't know. It's funny to me how I think they inherently built in the mind of an audience that like Endgame is the end of a great big long 3x structure. And so emotionally people were like, it's done. And then they're like, but it continues. And so as it's continued, you realize like we are now just in single issue trade paperback collecting times where like you just check one out based on what people say, which is why I saw Spider-Man, because all the reviews were so positive and I was like, wow, like people really are happy. So like, let's see if it's everything is cracked out to be. And I think very entertaining, but not a whole movie. And all of the opportunities they had to tie together his desire to stay hidden and his latent spider abilities and wiping the memory. And if I come out, so to speak, of hiding and I try to refresh these people's memories, it means I have to come into internal conflict with what it is that I'm trying to keep down, which is the thing that will make me more powerful. Like there's so much there that maybe in a different draft they really got to hammer that home. But it's clear apparently it was a Sony thing where they were like, okay, this is fun, let's put Jean Grey in this movie, and then
there it is.
We'll see what happens.
That's the banner that I use on Geekscape. Yeah, because the movie's been out for a week now.
That's everybody's secret.
Yeah, no, and I was adamant that Sadie Sink wasn't playing Jean Grey, mostly because I was like, it's such a stupid idea to introduce her in this way. Yeah. The writing was clearly on the wall, even from the trailers. But you're just, and listen, I I've only seen season 1 of Stranger Things, so I hadn't seen her in much. Somebody reminded me that she was in The Whale with Brendan Fraser. I'm like, okay, so yes, I have seen her, but I didn't remember her in anything. And I thought here's what she did. She gave a great performance for This Is Jean Grey in this movie, and I think you could feel Jean does have a sister named Sarah, so that is a close bond, which actually has not been explored nearly enough. Chris Claremont wanted Sarah Gray to be the female teammate in X Factor because he wanted Jean to stay dead. So, there's a history of that character. There's not going to be a history for her going forward in the MCU, tragically. Thanks VMAX.
Honestly, you never know.
That's also true. Yeah, that's true. That's right.
We are now officially in comic book territory. No one stays dead. Robert Downey Jr. comes back as Dr. fucking Doom for some reason. Captain America's back. Everyone's back. McRib is back. Christian, show up to the theater.
Hey, why don't we focus it on McRibs?
Okay. McRib is back. Like that, my buddy Mike sent me that when Robert Downey Jr. was cast as Dr. Doom. He's like, it just makes me think of this, and he sent me the McRib is back picture, and I was like, that's kind of what it's feeling like. Yeah.
So listen, I think that there are definitely some issues with it. There's the way that Jean behaves before we know she's Jean, but I have made the point, and I will continue to make the point. Jean Grey is the girl who once ate a star and snuffed out the lives of billions of people on planets that orbited that star because she was hungry. And you might be like, oh, that wasn't Jean, that was the Phoenix Force. Okay, under a retcon, yes. But that was Jean Grey. And that's why Jim Shooter, editor-in-chief, was like, no, she has to die. She did that. Yeah. So Jean has some tendencies that we don't usually see previously on X-Men. Yeah, but she's not as she's no Emma Frost, but she's got her moments. So I'm okay with it because she's young and lashing out. I want to explore that though. Like, let's not pretend it didn't happen, which is unfortunately what I think they're going to do. So again, good performance for a character that I still don't know belonged in here. But what I did love, and we talked about him, this Punisher, 10 out of 10. I want this Punisher. Don't turn him into a jokey Punisher, because one of my co-hosts pointed out that like it's not like Thor making jokes. It's like he's around for jokes. He sets up jokes, and he's able to be funny, but he's also a mass murderer.
What's funny is like, what is it internally for characters in the Marvel universe outside of needing to sell comics and movies and make money that lets the heroes excuse the fact that the Punisher kills people, but otherwise pursues everyone else who kills people to put them in prison? Right. Like the Punisher gets a pass because they feel bad that his family was killed. Like that's every villain backstory. Like the Punisher is not on paper like a good guy at all.
Yeah. No, Frank could have become Batman, by the way. Instead, he became the Punisher,
Which there's something to be said for, like, does Batman do a worse thing by not killing the people? He just, like, incapacitates them for life and turns them into quadriplegics, and then they have to for the rest
right,
of their lives.
Sir, there's a Batarang lodged somewhere private. We can't take it out. You're gonna just have to live that way, or you're gonna bleed out. By the way, this Soren made me laugh. Finally, fast food talk. Listen, we'll talk more McRib. We will always focus it on Rich.
I think the Marvel is the fast food talk at this point.
I think you're probably right. But yeah, and I think that the way it works best for me is because Peter and Frank already know each other. They didn't feel like they needed to give us a meet cute. This is a Spider-Man that we've never seen bitten by a radioactive spider, and I say thank you for that, because we've seen it other times and I don't need to see it. So I didn't need that. I liked that. And probably my favorite interaction is Jean watching the security footage and they're arguing and we can't even hear them. I was just like, oh, this is great. Right. And so I like how close they are. And apparently Tom Holland and John Bernthal first worked together in a film called Pilgrim in like 2015. Apparently John Bernthal helped him film his audition for Spider-Man. So they've known each other forever. And I didn't know that until this movie. And I'm like, well, that's great. I'm glad that they put them together in two of the biggest movies of the year. Yeah. So yeah, so I was able to kind of enjoy that, especially coming off of One Last Kill. I think that if this came off of a Daredevil season, if it came off of his show, maybe I would feel different. But I was like, oh, Frank's back. I think that they used Banner reasonably well. You're going to put the Hulk in a movie. You got to be careful. I was okay with it. I like that we had Bruce Banner scientist trying to help him through something. I thought Black Widow, Yelena, as a cameo, really a glorified cameo. I think that worked. She was funny. We didn't know she was in the movie. It's funny. The Jean Grey was a badly kept secret, but nobody knew. Well, I didn't know Yelena was in it. Yeah. So, I mean, I certainly had fun with it. A lot more fun than when I wasn't seeing it in 4DX. But and it's not perfect. But what I do think works is the emotions in it, the heart of this Spider-Man that we finally get to see, because this is his fourth movie. And just some great moments for them playing these characters for as long as they have. We understand that MJ doesn't remember Peter, but you still need a scene where she says, "I don't love you. I don't even know you." Mm-hmm. And the idea that Ned remembers their handshake. It's like, well, Ned was like, his best friend like forever. So he like knew him his whole life. So somebody pointed out that one of their favorite scenes in the movie was just the two of them putting Legos together while MJ's like sketching, just because it's like character stuff that doesn't advance the story other than the fact of like, oh yeah, remember what it was like to have friends.
See, that's the thing. That's the Nolan fuckery of it, is people are like, well, it doesn't technically advance the story. I'm like, yes, it does. It advances the emotional part of the story, which is oftentimes way more valuable than the plot of the story.
No, you know what? You're absolutely right. It doesn't advance the plot, but it's important to the story. Absolutely.
And yeah, I want more of that than I need the Hulk in this movie. Loved Mark Ruffalo, cool, but like didn't need that. Didn't need Black Widow. Didn't need Jean Grey. Pick a different spot. Like make this a true through and through Spider-Man movie. But like that's not the business that they're in. So I have to accept that I'm never gonna get that movie. That I think I'm always going to feel let down by the fact that every time I see a superhero movie, it is an incomplete story and filled with attempts to set up future stories that may or may not come true. Like
unless it's another cover for Punisher and Archie.
You can only hope. Yeah. Which is like when they were quoting the Lord of the Rings and stuff and doing all that, I'm like, this is really special. This is clearly the movie, and this with the thing that's kind of going on with him under the surface, they kind of like forget about it until he fights the Hand. Apparently, like I completely forgot until now about a whole organization run by the guy from Severance playing the same character
from Severance, yes.
From Severance. Working with fucking ninjas, an evil clan of ninjas that Daredevil could easily just told Spider-Man, like, don't trust those ninjas.
Yeah. Well, Daredevil's in jail right now, so
turns
he
on
anything.
That's true. My frustrations are like not with the cast and things. It's just that everybody's hamstrung by the fact that they have to contribute to making, I don't know, the same. They're setting up a universe. You know what I mean? That's the more important thing than telling a complete story, and that's kind of a bummer for me.
Right. So yeah, I think you clarified it in a way that made sense. The best part of the story is not the plot; it is the character stuff, and I think that's what resounded with everybody. My wife saw it with her friend, and when she came home, she was like, "I was ready to cry." About Peter and MJ stuff, but what she wasn't prepared for was the Aunt May stuff. I mean, I didn't even know that Marissa Tomei was in the movie, and people were like, "Oh, she was at the premiere. You couldn't figure it out." I'm like, "No, I didn't think about it. I was just like, oh yeah, she was, of course, a big part of the film franchise." But and just those moments, and it's really a thing that I think is interesting about superheroes, and I kind of arrived at this in an earlier conversation, is the goodness inside of those superheroes that actually have the good upbringing. He has Aunt May as a rock in his life. Superman has the Kents. Batman, unfortunately, has Alfred. So, he doesn't get that,
A relationship that is yet to properly be explored on film. They've done it, and they're just missing some opportunities with,
this
is
and And, then when you look to the X-Men, they're all either orphans or kicked out of their homes for being different, so they turn out a very certain way. Wolverine might have had a good upbringing, but it was like 150 years ago, so he probably doesn't even remember. But, so I think to really focus on that, and maybe it should feel a little schlocky, but I think it is a nice emotional moment when this embodiment of Aunt May is just like, I think Jean Grey just needs a hug, so I think it's you've actually brought me to the point where I realize it's like it's almost like it works in spite of the plot elements. Not that everything about the plot doesn't work, but there's parts of it that I'm like, oh, I don't know. And you see Mr. Melchick from Severance, you're like, oh, okay, he's not going to be somebody that we can trust.
Right.
There's no waffle parties in the hallway in this movie, unfortunately. Listen, I enjoyed it. And somebody asked me, is Tom Holland your favorite Spider-Man? And then I'm like, it kind of has to be at this point because this is a tremendous performance, but I'm like, he's been doing it for 10 years and nobody even got close to that, And so I'm like, he's really great because he's, what is he, like 33 now? So that's just how young he was when he started.
Right.
And, by working with quote unquote real filmmakers like Christopher Nolan, you realize like, these movies could be better, even if this isn't what you want it to be. It sure wasn't that Venom crossover movie they wanted to make. Well,
which is, what's funny is that, like, to me, there's always a solution. Like the job of a writer is to find a way to make it work. And I don't know that enough people take that seriously in a way that, like, if you say your assignment is all three Spider-Mans, Venom, and all these other things, like write a good script, I think it's possible.
Sure.
But a studio has to also not like fuck around in your business to make the emotionality of it land, where we don't get the emotionality, I think, in A Brand New Day landing as strongly as it could because the secret forgotten memory latent spider ability thing gets squashed by all the other shit that they have to do. And then so finally when they bring it back around, it's like, oh, Aunt May and Jean Grey have a nice moment. That's how they defuse the villain. But Spider-Man just she's like, it's you or it's Spider-Man or Peter Parker, whatever. And he's like, both. And I'm like, that should maybe matter as a choice, but it doesn't feel like anything. And like it's just a weird split that I think that there's always a way to make stuff work, but it unfortunately can't when has to be in service to the capitalism part of this storytelling machine, which is a bummer. I don't know. I obviously love comic books and I'm passionate about these characters, and I think that's what I feel burned out as on. I'm like, I still think there's a way to do some world building and setting up and still trying to tell complete story. Like Marvel was doing it early on. You think about Winter Soldier and some of the other Phase 2.
Listen, even, it's of course easy to point at one of the best ones. Even the first Thor, I'm specifically talking about, it's not a bad movie. It tells a story, it builds the world, it makes us believe a character that I wasn't convinced was going to work on screen. And I think we were doing the podcast back then. I just wasn't really sure.
Also directed by Kenneth Branagh. So Kenneth
Branagh's Thor's, Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. They certainly were better at that point. And as we look towards Doomsday, I don't know. It's really for people that I've had people I know that don't follow these things. Like, watch a trailer, tell me what you think. It's like, I have no idea what that movie's about. It's like, they kind of don't want you to know. They want you to know everybody who's in it. So. That's a very different conversation.
But there was such a fun, exciting thing of building up to Thanos, and it was obviously going to be Jonathan Majors or whatever, right? And they had to to change that. And Dr. Doom is such a cool character, and call me fucking crazy for wanting him set up in the Fantastic Four, but that's just me. What a wasted opportunity. What a perfectly looking Fantastic Four movie that somehow just still didn't even rise above any of the other versions of Fantastic. You know what I mean? Like, I waited my whole life for that version of Fantastic Four, finally got it, and I was like, it is what it is.
Yeah, I'll stand by the Roger Corman version, and
absolutely.
Joseph Culp is my Dr. Doom.
That's right. He came on the podcast, didn't he?
I did. Yeah, I got to interview him in person, and it was great.
Awesome. But now Thor comes back and says, like, there's a guy out there who's killing all these people. It's Dr. Doom, and you're like, okay, we had this leading up to this since the end of the first Avengers with Thanos, like masterful planning. Like there was after Endgame, like boy, this thing just all
No, they were building to stories with a different bad guy, and listen, obviously the stories about Jonathan Majors. No, you weren't going to be able to work with him. But once again, there was no chance that you could recast that character because there's millions of Kangs, as we saw at the end of as everybody who saw Quantumania saw an end credit scene. They show all of them. He could have totally looked like somebody else. But anyway, this was this was definitely a big panic move. The Russo brothers come back to direct Robert Downey Jr. as Dr. Doom. And I can't imagine that from a narrative standpoint, that movie's going to be better than this one. They're going to be cramming so much more into this. And listen, I agree with a lot of the flaws of this. The first one that somebody pointed out that I agreed with, that I was like, oh yeah, that makes sense, is something you said, which is it's very quick for Peter to just decide I'm going to be both and then jump right into it. Now, you do move things along faster for storytelling, but I was like, yeah, that's very significant. And even if he deals with it after, because like in the middle of a fight, you're like, yeah, I just got to do this so I don't get my ass handed to me. Okay, do something afterwards, but they don't. So but are you glad that you saw this Spider-Man adventure, or was it just more like it's too many missed opportunities for me to have enjoyed the ride?
No, I mean, it's very rare that I see a movie that I'm like not glad that I saw, even corny movies or bad movies or movies at home, because I like going to the movies, and it is a nice feeling living in a time. People have been saying this for so long, that like movies are dying and AI is going to kill all these things, and people are just going to want to see AI movies and all this kind of stuff. And like, I just don't think that's true. I've never really thought that was true. But to see across 2026 in particular, like such a wide array of different types of stories, and I've seen them in like fully packed theaters, like Project Hail Mary, and then the Odyssey, and Spider-Man, and Backrooms, and Obsession. You know what I mean? Like these movies that run a full spectrum of originality to existing IP and various levels of special effects and whatever the fuck. But every one of those major movies that's been for this year, like I've seen it in a super full theater, and I'm like, I don't believe this narrative that like movies are fucked and we're in trouble. I think people want to go to the movies, but they want to see things that make them feel a certain way. And obviously the Odyssey does that for a lot of people because of the scope. I think Spider-Man as a character just makes people feel good. People just fucking love Spider-Man, and like, great, I'm happy. I like that. Tom Holland's great. Colors are nice. The zippy, the webs, like it's all like, it's a good time. Always feel like stories can be better, but I kind of don't fault the team specifically because they're in service of a major corporation that needs them to do very certain things. It's not bad by any means. It's still a fine movie for me on my scale,
a fine trademark, patent pending, Will Starling.
But at the end of the day, like, I'm not upset. I'm happy when a movie like The Invite comes out, and I'm like, this is my favorite movie of the year so far, or one of my favorites.
You're the second person that said that to me, and I felt so burned by Olivia Wilde because of just how much I hated Don't Worry, Darling.
Everybody did, and everybody, rightfully so, is like, okay, something got her off the fucking path a little bit, and she's to have two movies that are basically like revolving around the same kind of thing. Perspectives of that, and I Want Your Sex, it's the Gregor Rocky movie. It's very funny to see, but The Invite.
But I've heard that The Invite was very good. And,
very big thing. And as a comedy, that, I mean, their budget wasn't super small because they all command a sizable paycheck. But I think bought by A24 for like 12 or something million, and then has made 40, 50 some odd million worldwide. Nice to see that the budget comedy like can still be a thing. All these things that people have said are like over, like I've held on to this feeling that like for many years cinema was going to have a big resurgence, and I think we're finally there, where Letterboxd and young people care about old movies or care about the language of cinema in a way that makes them want to go see The Invite after they see Spider-Man. Like, that's cool.
Yeah, no, and there's kind of a flood of movies that are coming out over the next couple weeks because screens were going to be tied up for most of July by the Minions. No, by the Odyssey and Spider-Man: Brand New Day. So there's definitely interesting movies. Like as we're recording this, coming out today is Will Gluck, who made Easy A, which is a movie that both my wife and I love. And he's got a movie called One Night Only, which it's sort of a concept where single people there's only one day a year single people can have sex. And I had positioned that as like, oh, it's kind of like a perverted version of The Purge. And my friend Lucy, aka Kaylee, was like, yes, I'm calling this movie The Urge. And I have to give her credit because I think that's very funny. So, yeah.
First of all, it wasn't a spoiler. I didn't know that was the pitch. I've seen that trailer 100 times.
Oh, yeah, they say it in the trailer.
But I thought they were just talking about Valentine's Day.
Oh, did I ruin the movie for you? I'm sorry.
It's fine.
I really thought it was so clear from the trailer.
That was the concept in the first 5 minutes of the film.
Yeah.
So it's not a spoiler, but going into it, I thought it was just like a sweet rom-com, and they were making a joke that Valentine's Day is the one night of the year that people can have.
Right. Well, and the reason that I mentioned it is because I'm like, oh, it takes the convention of, a rom-com and it puts an interesting level on it. And I think that's sort of where we're at. It's like, let's take something and let's mix it up a little bit,
By the way, I'm throwing the pitch out here. I can give it away to somebody else. Maybe James Gunn watches and he cares about this.
Probably does.
West and Linda Park, my Flash movie, rom-com. Superhero rom-com. I tried it with my crazy ex-girlfriend. The two before its time didn't really work out. How do we revitalize the superhero ether concoction thing? Rom-com. I'm telling you.
I think there's something to be said for that. There's interesting new movies, and then also Super Troopers 3. I'm like, I bet that's really funny. You know what I mean? So I'm just trying to choose carefully what I see next. Although I do believe that tonight I will not be seeing Eli Roth's Ice Cream Man, which looks absolutely dreadful. But at the AMC 16 as part of the Burbank International Film Festival, my friend Eric Connor will be doing a Q&A with the great Clint Howard, showcasing the classic Ice Cream Man. And I was like, yes, that sounds like an event that was made for me.
An old movie?
Oh, yeah. Oh, my gosh. The Clint Howard Ice Cream Man. I would say you should watch that. Okay. It is from an era where, schlocky, campy horror can do no wrong as long as it's it would be a good rental in a stack of VHS tapes with Frankenhooker. Let's put it that way.
Got it.
I want to talk to you about a million more movies, but this is what happens about getting older and podcasting for this long. You can save it for next time. I don't want to wait so long to talk to you again. And I at least this time I have the excuse that I just haven't done the show in 6 weeks. So that's a big part of it. But I appreciate you making yourself available and talking about all this. I want to blow through some of these comments in the chat, but again, getting old. Let me put my glasses on. Gene seems like a corporate product placement. Love the movie and the role actress, but Disney seems to want the big X-Men announcement at the Disney convention this month. Yes, 100%. D23. Some of the casting has started to trickle out. That X-Men cast will come out on the stage. And who are they going to get to play Wolverine? I can't say anything, but I have my vote. It is, of course, Will Sterling. And
you think I could play Wolverine? I don't know.
Sure, of course you could. Lewis Cox, love the Odyssey and Spider-Man: Brand New Day, and yes, Tom and John and Zendaya in both, and they're friends, which they work well together in both movies, and both those movies have made bank. Yeah, I think why don't we get a Lethal Weapon style buddy comedy with the two of them? I would certainly be there for that. They needed a big baddie at the end. It's talking about Spider-Man needed to be anonymous. Oh, that's interesting. The focus would have been thrown off Gene Damage Control. What's a familiar organization that fans may know can't use AIM? They kind of burned through AIM before. Be a Hydra. I know the hand isn't busy. Well, yeah. And Stress-Free K. I disagree. As a kid, you always wonder what Spider-Man versus the Hulk looks like or Spidey versus Ninjas. That makes it spectacular. Yes, if we're playing with action figures in the backyard, these matchups are absolutely perfect. But
that was always my excuse for the Michael Bay produced. I will say produced because he didn't direct the Ninja Turtles movies, where they're really a mess. The first one has some real special moments, but people are like, "This is stupid." I'm like, I think you always wanted to see Michelangelo on a jet-powered skateboard. I just think
and by the way, yes, I did,
and we got it. So it's like I get that feeling of being like, I don't want to dismiss that. If people find that joy in it, like, good for you. Like it's just.
Yeah, because Spidey in love always leads to Spidey heartbreak, whether it's Aunt May, whether it's Gwen Stacy, whether it's MJ, any of it. It all leads to pain for the character. As a fan of Spidey, would I have loved them to have Sadie Sink as Firestar? Oh, now you're talking Spider-Man and his amazing friends. But who would you get to play Ms. Lion? I don't know. But Jean Grey, I'm fine with it. I still wanted Firestar, to be honest. Louis Cox, you're speaking my love language right there. I need the Jean Grey origin story. I never understood where she came from. She's a clone of Jean Grey. She's a clone of Madeline Pryor, I think, is what the story will be. What were you going to say? Well, sorry.
Well, that I hate to tell you, but you still don't know. Like, that was not a Jean Grey origin. So it's like her and her sister sat in a fucking park, and then they took her sister away and they killed her.
They wanted ice cream, and Clint Howard served it to them, I think, is what happened. Last time I saw the hand was at the end of the Defender show on Netflix. I do love the hand. Yeah. Somewhere I have a tweet from Frank Miller, who said that he really enjoyed the movie. This was the most Ditko like Spidey had been. But someone pointed out to me that he does take the time to mention that, and it was great to see my hand in it because he created the hand. And I was like, oh, okay, so he's just really patting himself on the back. And I hadn't even read it that way.
Yeah. Very quick, I know we got to go, but like Scorpion, cool. That was such a great design. He looked great.
Agreed. He did look good.
Fucking threw him away. You know what I mean? Like that's a Raimi style, could have been a major bad guy like player, and they used him very briefly to then inject X-Men. And I was like, oh, that's cool. That's not cool. Like, that was great. That was great. I would have loved to see classic Spidey. Like Hammerhead is in there briefly, or whoever that was.
Well, that's Tombstone, but we also see Tarantula. And I think it would have been great to see some of that. They did that in the Fantastic Four movie. They shot us a whole sequence with John Malkovich as the Red Ghost, and it's reduced to like 15 seconds because, listen, that made the movie move better from their point of view. But I was like, no, why wasn't that just the movie though? I mean, it's John Malkovich. Louis Cox points out Christopher Nolan in an interview said he likes the Obsession movie. I agree that was definitely a simple tale that had been told before, but they put a nice spin on it. No mention of Backrooms. Stretch K, I pointed out at the beginning of the show that Will clearly is sitting in the Backrooms. And yes, Backrooms is set up for a sequel or a series of sequels, and we'll see what happens. Anyway, I think that what I liked most about Backrooms was that I still really didn't know what was going on at the end of it, and I had to be okay with it, and I was. So, but there have been all sorts of interesting movies this summer, and one that we didn't have any time to talk about, but we will have to include next time, is based on a beloved childhood intellectual property that I had so many people telling me was great. I even did a whole episode of it on this channel, and I don't know what the hell was going on with the Master of the Universe movie, but we'll tease that for an upcoming episode. As I mentioned, the next episode of this show will actually be reheated leftovers from other shows, but it's going to be, if you enjoyed the Spider-Man part of this, get ready. It's if I had to guess, probably going to end up being 3.5 hours of split, one of my stitched together episodes. I used to do them all separately, and then it's like, you know what, just if people want to hear it, they want to hear it, so I will let them find it. And of course, as always, you can find these things originally on Geekscape. But Will, I want to give you a moment to let everybody know where they can find all the Will Sterling they could ever possibly hope to enjoy.
At Will Sterling _ is all my stuff. That Friend is in festivals right now. A Cell Phone movie. You can see some clips and some things on YouTube. That's some big announcements coming towards the end of the year for a Cell Phone movie. And then my cryptic, mysterious Instagram page, One Woman Film. You should follow that. Just to, I'm trying to, we'll see what happens.
Yes, we want to follow all of that, and I've seen Cell Phone movie. I have seen That Friend, and I look forward to people being able to see them more whenever that might be. But Will Sterling, Will Sterling underscore. It's still there, by the way. I tagged you in it this morning, or I think late last night. But I was just like, I wonder if he's gone all Threads and Blue Sky, because I want to embrace those platforms, but I have like 12 followers on each of them, and I have 4,000.
People set them up to own the handle, and then they just leave them.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Yeah.
And Will, I think Stress Free K says it best. Fun podcast. Thanks, y'all. Thank you for being there. The few of you trickled in. And for those of you that are watching the archive version, go ahead and leave the comments down below. You know that I will comment on those comments. I will respond to the comments. And, you can definitely bait me into having a really long conversation in those comments. And you can find me on social media at Christian DMZ. I'm all over the Geekscape network. We're having fun covering Marvel's animations, X-Men 97 season 2. The season finale will be next week. And we will do all of that. And of course, who are these broadcasters? Tuesdays, 2 p.m. Eastern. 1 p.m. Eastern. 10 a.m. Pacific. We moved it back an hour like months ago, and I'm still giving the old plug. But over on Who Are These Podcasts YouTube channel, you'll find it there. And I want to thank Will Sterling, and our apologies to Matt Damon. We've run out of time, but we talked about his movie at least. And of course, more Spidey talk will be next time on the Bladtcast.